Greg.
Good morning, David. How are you?
I'm adequately well. How are you?
You're adequately well. Well, that's good. I would hate for you to be inadequate.
Me too. Oh, man. Good morning, everybody in chat. And Dominic says good morning. So good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. And to all our winners from last week's draw, I believe you should have gotten an email yesterday with your information on how to retrieve your prize.
Mm-hmm.
So
get the goods.
Yes. So hopefully you enjoy that and go from there.
And if you don't tell us. I mean,
and Dominic is already jumping ahead to the first topic.
Well, it's not the first topic. You named the screen or the stream, so of course.
I know. I know.
Bong.
Yeah.
Morning, Stig 2. Hello, Stig.
Hey, Stig.
I'll push a button here. Hold on. Pushing the button in 3, 2. Push the button. Okay. Thank you to everybody on this screen. Patreons are important to us, and without your continued support, stuff wouldn't happen. Websites and projects and all those things, and you're very important to us, and thank you for continuing to support. Discord is what you're trying to say? Yeah, he'll get there. Don't. Ladies and gentlemen, Greg.
But yes, our Discord, and we've had some good chats in there already this morning about filament, different types of filament, and how some rolls are different colors, even though they're the same supposed color and whatnot. And so, so if you want to join us, become a patron, you can have some stimulating conversations in there.
Stimulus.
Yeah.
Well, okay, no, that's different. And you usually have to pay stimulus back. I mean, it's the way it works.
Yeah, it's called recession.
Hold on. You're welcome. I have that one too. But yes, so Greg, this morning we named the stream. What nozzle do you use? Something like that. I forget what it was called. Right? Was it what nozzle do you use?
Yeah.
It's short. It's to the point, and then it's an interesting topic. And I think Dominic, like you said, already answered. He said, "I used a hardened steel-coated copper nozzle just to answer your thumbnail question."
Yeah, and I have some of the hardened steel nozzles on my printers. On my CR10, I put one of the CHT hardened nozzles, and the CHT nozzles are kind of unique, and we'll show a picture of them a little later. But I saw CNC Kitchen did a whole kind of analysis of them, and he even tried to make his own, and he successfully made his own and whatnot, because they're copyrighted, I guess. So
they're copyrighted
or patented, sorry,
like the nozzle design.
Yes, because they have 3 holes to.
Oh, you're just talking about like that specific nozzle, not like nozzle. Okay, I got
you. Yeah. So because what it does is it kind of increases your melting point of your filament, because it actually splits it into 3 as it's going through the nozzle. Yeah. So it divides it up and whatnot, depending on which model you buy, because there's some that'll just split it in 2, but their newer ones do split it into 3.
Yeah, now so yours was the Bondtech, right?
Yeah, I got the Bondtech version.
Cool.
And it works. It actually works really well. I noticed it melts way faster, and just like Stefan said on CNC Kitchen, and it performs really well. Now they do cost more, but they just came out, the one thing they came out with now, which we can show off here. I can share my screen.
Oh, hold on. The code words have been said. I did it. You're welcome. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That was. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. They say you're silent, which is unfortunate. Just one sec. Okay, no, you're fine. You're fine now. Yeah, you're fine. I don't know if I can. It says you're sending audio. Do you guys hear him? I'm just wondering. Like, I'm watching the stream. But the. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't. Like, it shows your audio is sending, but hold on. Let's just go pop. We'll pop back. Remember the pictures. Okay. Say it again right now.
So you guys can hear me now, I think. All right. So you can see from the pictures that I had up previously that it has the hardened steel core, and it has the three holes that slices the filament as it's going through. The filament, once it gets there, is already quite started to soften. So when it gets sliced through there, it actually melts super efficiently. So that's Stefan from CNC Kitchen made his own version of this, which he copied from the patent that the company, I think it's CHT, holds the patent, and Bondtech is the manufacturer.
And then he put it on the internet. I love people and their silliness. Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty efficient. It works really well. I have one on my one printer, and I'm thinking of putting a 0.6 on my Ender. Yeah, so they work really well. Bondtech just came out with this new version, so it's more wear resistant, and whatnot. They are more expensive, so don't think you're getting a $2 nozzle. You're not. You're gonna pay
$27.
Yeah, you're gonna pay like $27.
Well, and that's Canadian, so probably just for your country. Now Dominic poses an interesting question, and he said, could the Bondtech nozzle interfere with the color of a new multiple color extrusion filament? And so it depends which one.
Like the rainbow?
Well, no, there's something. So they have dual extrusion. I don't know if you've seen it now. So rainbow filament is just one piece of filament, and then it extrudes that, and then it switches. But they have co-color filament now. It blends up. I've seen it up to 3 colors, and there might be more, but like it has basically the filament, when it gets extruded, one side's one color and one side's another, and then
I would say that
absolutely it would.
It should probably mess it up a bit.
Yeah.
But
I'm not sure how much.
Right?
That's the thing, because you're just splitting the channel.
It's going through straight, and it splits the channel to melt more efficiently. And then when it gets to the end, it's all melted and oozing out together. So I don't.
But the question is it going? it will affect it, but like maybe it's something. Maybe we'll have to buy a roll and get you to print it, and then we can look at it. But like the thing, it would affect it in the fact that the nozzle when it comes out might mix it.
Yeah,
But,
and I don't know. I've never tried any of that
but
filament. I'll have to
yeah,
maybe try it on my CR10.
it's an interesting thought experiment for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So
So like, and then Stakes raises the point too. When you talk about using steel nozzles, the steel nozzles conduct heat less efficiently than the brass.
right,
Um,
but the reason for the hardened steel is not necessarily for regular everyday printing. So it is specifically designed for your more abrasive materials. So yeah, you're going to have to adjust your temperature for sure. But if you're using, carbon fiber filled, or
yeah,
you're using some of the any other filament with fill in it, like the one more popular is glow in the dark, right? It's known to be a little more harsh on your brass nozzles and that sort of thing. So it's something to think about when you're using that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I just thought that I saw that they had the new hardened steeled one, because I was just using the nickel coated. I think they're nickel coated. I don't think they're hardened steel, but they're just the more standard.
yeah.
CHT
Well, like
ones.
so, and I use a steel nozzle 0.6 on my CR10, sorry, and like it works fine for everyday printing, but you do have to adjust your temperature a bit to accommodate that lack of heat coming to the nozzle, because as good as your thermistor is on your printer, it's not sitting on your nozzle, it's sitting in the
Heat
heater.
break.
Yeah, so
Or the heater cart,
yeah,
or heat block.
the block.
The block
Yeah.
is what I'm.
It's good. And then Dominic posted in the Discord something in the tricolor, so you can see, you can go see it. It's really cool because it's like half and half. But so the hardened steel and then is slightly different when you talk about coated. So when we talk about coated nozzles, generally speaking, they're brass, and then they put a coating on top.
Yeah,
to make it a little
lot
more,
of times nickel.
yeah, to make it a little more robust, but still allow for that good heat transfer and
Yep.
everything good about a brass nozzle.
And plating's very thin normally, so
Yeah,
it's not going to insulate it.
So if you have bought or do buy Micro Swiss hot ends and those things, that's kind of what they do with their nozzles. So I actually have a few of those ones kicking around too.
Yeah.
And then we talked about it, I think maybe last week a bit. I can't be 100% sure. I know we've mentioned it, but and then the other big difference is size of the actual nozzle
Right.
output, right?
Yeah.
So like I said, I rock anywhere between the 0.4 and 0.8, and then Greg has a collection.
Yeah. I have a collection, but I haven't really used a lot of my collection.
Yeah.
I have everything from 0.4, 5, 6, 8, and 1 on here.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've never used the 1, and I've never used the 8, but I'm going to be using 0.6. I'm going to try to use some 0.6 because I think I want to try it out, because I don't print really finite little D&D models and whatnot, so I think 0.6 will be for the majority of my printing is going to be fine.
Yeah.
So
and
you've had more experience with 0.6 now because you've been using it for a bit.
Yeah.
What do you
they
think?
Don't change the resolution of your actual model, because you can still print right at your normal resolution, or at least 0.2. That's a real trick. 0.2 on a 0.6 nozzle is getting towards the low end of resolution. Going below that, you might It's like when you're
I have
in
a
theory
point. I
you
have a
can,
0.2, and it's small.
yeah, right. Like on a
But
point
I've never,
two,
again, never tried it.
I should say on a point four, in theory, the lower limit is 0.08. I do believe, if my brain is doing that math right. But again, if you actually tried to do that, you probably end up with
A mess.
something you wouldn't notice the results of, and maybe a clog.
Yeah.
And on
And the
when
smaller
Greg,
nozzle, you print slower too.
you do, and because there's less filament, and on a larger nozzle, you can crank out faster, but you have to increase your temperature.
That's why I'm gonna lean to the Blendtec, because it melts more efficiently, and he even had some comparisons to the volcanoes, and it came pretty close.
Yeah.
So if you want to compensate for, let's say if you wanted to do a 0.8 or 1, that might be a good choice to still have a decent extrusion rate. With, if you're going to 0.1 or 1.
Okay, I'll say this out loud right now. Okay, here, ready for
1,
this.
you're gonna
Buy a resin printer if you're trying to get lower resolution.
yes. But if you're going for a 1, like a nice big orifice there,
Oh, those are fun too. Yeah.
The Bondtech one with the 3, that's going to really melt it more efficiently without, so you're not probably going to have as much trouble trying to print, as fast as you were doing on that one than just a regular 0.1 with a single hole.
Yeah, and for 90% of us, when you're talking FDM, 0.2 is usually where we bottom out. Now, like, and lots of model makers use 0.2, like layer height. So just so we're clear, when you're in your slicer and you're picking the resolution or layer height, depending on which slicer you're in, 0.2 is just like the layer height that it's going to extrude.
Yeah, so that's the upward movement.
And so, yeah, like 0.6 is more than great for that. We had this discussion, I think, actually at work, and like 0.6 gives you thicker walls, which means you can print less walls faster and they're thicker, right? So the catch is when you change between nozzle sizes, like if you're swapping in a 4 to 6 or you're going from a 0.4 to a 0.8 or whatever it is, right? Rarely does the slicer nail all those flow settings correctly, so you're gonna have to like tweak inside there a bit.
Yeah, you're gonna have to adjust your profile accordingly, and your hardware settings, because in your printer you've probably predefined in Cura or Prusa that you're using a 0.4 nozzle. So don't slap it on and forget to change that, because weird things will happen.
Yeah, and both slicers are relatively easy. Like, I should say all three. Let's mention simplified because it's out. Yeah. And all three of those, they're all easy to use. And change the nozzle size. Prusa, I think, is the most overt one that slaps you in the face and lets you know which one you have picked. Yeah. And then probably Simplify would be the next, and then Cura. But they all do offer the nozzle change in there. And like Steve says too, like 0.24 is often fine enough, and you shave that little bit of time back.
Yeah. I've gone 0.32.
Yeah, it works on a 0.4. But
and it works. It works good. It increases your speed and whatnot. So, I mean, you could do a 0.32 on a 0.06 really easily.
you for sure you could, and like
you can
just
even go bigger.
The theoretical limit of a nozzle size is about 80%. So if you take your nozzle size and 80% of that diameter, that's what you can actually print. But in practice, you can actually tweak it.
Yeah.
You can get up there a little bit more. But be prepared to use more filament when you're using bigger nozzles. That's the other caveat, especially if you forget to change your wall settings. Because 4 walls at 0.8 nozzle is chunky. Chunky. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like a nozzle quandary, you know. We all use them. And they
Yep,
all
we
have
do.
different ones, right? But now for something completely different. We'll skip the next one and then come
That
back to
kind
it
of
in a
figured.
bit.
I kind of figured we'd go to
The,
hardware next.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So the next one. Well, we have two, and there's two things that came out of Big Tree Tech recently.
Well, Big Tree Track has actually released quite a few things.
Like there's more than okay. The company has released more than two.
But we're
things.
talking about two of them. How's that?
Yeah, that's better.
No.
That's better. So the first one we'll talk about is probably let's talk about the Manta and then switch back. So the Manta.
Sure.
So we all know that like Big Tree Tech had a Manta board come out, and basically the Mantas let you mount your Raspberry Pi or similar microcomputer.
Directly to it.
It's designed. Its existence is for Marlin or no Clipper.
Yeah.
You could.
Well, you could just use it for Octoprint too.
Yeah, but like when you look at their marketing,
the Voron has made these very popular.
Yeah, and so the new one that came out from Big Tree Tech here, I'm just gonna hit my. Let's see. Okay, Greg, talk.
I'm talking.
Okay,
I'm
good.
talking. I'm hoping people are hearing.
I'm hoping people are hearing you too, because I can't make them hear you more. Oops, sorry. There we go. Okay, Big Tree Tech Manta board. Here we go. You can get the Manta with drivers or not. That's pretty standard. The Manta supports color screens, which is kind of a big step forward for it. The cool part about it is this last part of the sentence here. This is the part that says Ender 3, Ender 5 Pro. So, if now what they've just done is made the footprint so that you can slap it into your Ender 3 without any hassle.
Which is interesting because does it not have an Ethernet port on it?
Greg, you are 100% correct. There is an Ethernet port.
So it's the right size for the Ender 3, 5, and whatnot, but it will not fit in the housing properly. Like it might fit, but then you can't access certain things.
So when you look at the footprint of the board, and I might be wrong, but the micro SD card reader here, and the am I sending you video? Hold on.
Sorry. I don't see the video.
Sorry.
So,
you should see it now. Sorry, Greg deserves to see what's going on. Yeah, okay, you can see it now. Sorry everybody. Anyway, so now back to this. Like this is the stock position up here for the micro SD card and the SD card, or on the USB cable, I should say. I think this is in the open chassis, if I remember correct.
Well, if it's an Ender 3, I guess it would technically be under the y-axis.
Yeah. So
because it sits upside down in the standard Ender 3.
Theory, you could snake a cable in there, probably.
That just means you can't have the bottom of the box on.
Yeah.
You'll have to do something different.
But okay, so the screws and everything matches. Now, Greg and I, and I'm sure many of you too. I'm not sure if this statement doesn't apply to you. I'd be interested to see it in the chat. But I've replaced the stock controller box on my Ender 3 with a custom one that I designed to go behind the printer and attach. So I because when we installed that new Sprite, right? What my biggest pet peeve about like the Ender 3 was always you had to turn it upside down to work on it. Right?
Yeah, to get at the board and the wires and everything.
And so like my board actually matches this footprint, or my controller matches this footprint perfectly. So I would have no problem throwing it into there, and then I could access the Ethernet. It's interesting that it uses the
see the stuff on the one side here.
Yeah.
On the one side with the Ethernet and the USB
boop, boop.
and had the SD and everything.
Yep.
That side of the board is the Pi side.
Yeah.
Whereas the other side there with the SD and everything, that's the standard
Yeah, like that's your
board side,
board side.
kind of thing.
Now, let's how to say this. You can make firmware access the ports of either or device and have so like for SD card, for example, we did a video about flashing firmware from a Raspberry Pi onto the LPC 67s.
Yeah, I think so.
But like basically, you can make your firmware aware of other ports.
Except on here, it's different because these other ports go to a different logic board.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is, since this is a Raspberry Pi, it can jump because it's going to read the Raspberry, but you'd have to use like SSH and SFTP to ping it, right? Yeah. But yeah, no, they're different logic boards. But the cool part, again, like it's their new easy driver board, so they're those little slotty drivers, the little slot chips. But like, yeah, like the fact that the form factor fits an Ender is a big win here. And Ender is kind of a weird one when you look on like board format, I guess, for the screws. Because like for the longest time you had like the MKS kind of, 4 in the corner, and then the SKR kept that, and none of the Creality printers ever used that, so we were always designing. But like this is nice because of the way the holes are lined out. You can actually slap it right in, so that's there.
I personally would change the case because I didn't like the stock case, and a lot of times I'm putting in boards that are not formatted quite for an Ender.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
so
let's see if I can bring it up here. I don't know if I have. Nope, I don't. The one box that I made in Fusion has like the mounting points for every single board. And then you can just throw whatever you want in there. It's basically a test platform.
Well, I mean, we kind of copied Teaching Tech's design originally.
Originally it was, but
and then we've kind of modified it since then. So
it's not.
I even on mine it's different because I've got my Pi in there, and then I've got the little Big True Jack UPS in there, and then the board. So I've made mine different. So
like I started mine as that external box, and then I moved it to, and the external box is on Thingiverse, and then I just moved it to one that mounts to the side rail, and I like that one better. Because the Teaching Tech one's good, but I don't throw everything in there because I'm like, why would I want to bake all my electronics together? Let's give them their own little easy bake ovens. So this is $60. Big Tree Tech, $60. You can get it with drivers, probably $80. Now this is all Canadian, so just think about that when you're when pricing, because that's American. Morning, Ray. Ray says, I honestly don't think the board will fit in the stock E3 case, not because of the ports, but because of the drivers. I think they're too tall. And I
would think you're probably right,
I
Ray.
agree with Ray. Yeah, like these easy slot drivers, they do stick up more.
But you can't put the cover on anyway, Ray, because if you put the cover on, you can't access the Ethernet port. So
here's a picture that they have on the website of it fitting nicely.
Except it's completely wrong because
this is a render and it doesn't even match.
No, because it should be upside down in the render.
Yeah, and there's the easy slot drivers. And let's see if there's anything else fun. HDMI. Oh, yeah, that makes sense because it's a Pi. 5 amp. Yeah. So other than that, it looks pretty standard. But as for the drop-in, I doubt it. Maybe we'll order one. I can use a new controller because my one's dying. So maybe I'll pick this up and then we'll do a thing. But so that's
we'll have to see if Ray has them in stock.
That's one thing. Now the other thing,
he could.
The other thing that's completely different, not really completely different. Big Tree. So this is kind of interesting. We talked about this earlier in our weeks, but Big Tree Tech came out with a new probe.
They did.
So here, hold on, screen share again. There, boom. New probe. It's called the Micro Probe. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it looks like a BL Touch-ish or a CR Touch.
And
but
so
it's tinier.
It's tiniest. See, look, Ritter. According to the marketing, smaller, lighter, better.
I don't know. I don't know if it's better.
Faster, stronger.
It's
no,
definitely smaller.
So it's 6 grams, they claim, right?
And I don't have a BL Touch handy to weigh.
I forget how much the BL Touch is. The BL Touch is not heavy by any stretch of the mind.
No. Well, I mean,
this is my favorite marketing picture they have. Design, and then it has the Tesla.
And then look, it has a whole bunch of different probes.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different renders until they got to like their one, which I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but have
they show it mounted on a yeah, there you go. There's a good comparison right there.
Yeah. Well,
you can see the height difference between the BL Touch and whatnot. Like it's 20 or 2 centimeters shorter.
Which is okay. That's fine. And here's how it works. It has a snap-on. This is on their hot end for their new version of whatever the Legend was called, the H.
Yeah.
Something.
If you go down, I think a couple more pictures. I think they show it on an ender.
And then here's on their H2 extruder.
There it is.
There's the ender. So it has that little drop down.
See, yeah.
I mean, it looks like it's gonna work, but like I have reminiscent flashbacks to like the what was it?
The janky
3D Touch.
Oh man, those are so bad. Those are so bad. Get a BL Touch if you're gonna get one.
Yeah. and like we haven't used this one, so I can't tell you. Like this just came out. That's why we haven't used it. This stuff wouldn't, even if we bought it today or yesterday, it wouldn't be here for a month
until February because of the. Yeah.
So we're just looking at pictures for now. We might try it. Like this one does look okay, and I will say that like we've all experienced buying a Big Tree Tech board when it first launched. And it
didn't work great.
And but after that, they do have
they come out with revisions and firmware and tweaks and all that, and they get it incorporated into Marlin and whatever other version very quickly.
So like they have, let's call it, they have quality control of sorts, but they have better damage control in the end, right? When something happens, they're like, oh crap, let's fix it.
Now,
but they don't usually.
The last few boards that have come out, I haven't heard any real controversy.
Well,
so maybe they're getting better.
Yeah, and like a lot of the like on the one board, it was the reverse driver protection, right? That was the issue, and like. But once those features are out and they've used them, they know how to, map the PCB properly.
Well, someone swapped a chip and then didn't quality control it because they tried to save money and they caused them more hassle.
Yeah.
So I think hopefully they have learned their lesson, and now they don't substitute chips without consulting and doing proper.
Yeah. I like Dominic's comment control for this probe. More work for the Hero Me guy.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. He has to make another mount. And then Stig says that he uses the E3 Mini V1 too, and they're fine, and they are fine until they go bad. And like go bad is a relative. Like, I've burned a driver out on a board. That's and then I had one, it wasn't burnt out, it just stopped working. Like it tested fine, but it was like, nah, I don't drive no more. And you're like, great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Ray did say that they do have some Manta boards in, so if Stig or Dominic
other Manta boards, not that one,
want to spend money on at Spool, Ray can ship that stuff out to you. Because you do have your prize money. So
yep, but he doesn't have this one He has other Manta boards.
Yeah, he has
But
other ones.
but that's understandable because this one's new. Like I don't even know like the
Well,
rendering.
there's like 5 new Manta boards, I think, and
Yeah.
and they have a 10 driver Octopus board now. So I don't know why they call it Octopus if it's 10 now.
They just need to make a dual processor now, and then you could run your laser engraver and your. Ray
And
says the BL Touch is 5.6 grams.
how many grams was the other one?
6.
Well, there you go. So if they had used a plastic tipped, they probably could have got it below.
Oh, I'm sure that tip is like plastic, just coated in
No,
shiny.
it's probably just a metal thing. I don't know. Hard to say.
But yeah, like the BL Touch was never heavy.
No, no, and yeah, no, and mine's been very reliable. So
Yeah, I mean, not to say this one looks bad, but like, yeah, I don't think you can get much like. Yes, that's what it's called.
this is a family-friendly show.
Oh, you just don't use that around here, right? Yeah, why can't I? Oh yeah, hold on, that's the wrong button. No.
And if you have a small printer like an Ender,
Uh-huh.
you really don't need to use a probe. On a bigger printer where you have a gantry that needs to be, squared up and whatnot, a probe is very handy.
Yeah.
And that's on both my bigger printers. I have it automatically true up the gantry before it does the level, and then it prints great. So.
Yeah. It's yeah. And the Voron, Ray mentioned that he's gonna play with the Voron tap. Did you guys get a kit in for that, or did you do it yourself? Just curious. Like that's the Voron auto leveler system.
Yeah.
So
Well, and the other thing that Big Tree Tech has now is a whole bunch of the tool boards. So, and the tool boards are for the Voron and whatnot. So your tool head is basically run off of the CAN bus. So you have way less wires going to it. You have basically your depending on how you run it, they have a couple different options. You can run with a USB-C cable, or you can run with 2 CAN wires and 2 power wires. So you lighten up the amount of wiring in your loom that is going to your tool head and whatnot, and then all your stuff just comes off of that. So you got 24 volt going to your tool head, and then just little connectors going out to each of your thermistor, your heater cartridge, your extruder motor if you have an extruder built into your head and whatnot. So it's kind of neat. So they have a number of those. Now there are a whole bunch of companies have tool head boards. It's just they have partnered with a couple of the more popular ones to actually produce them. So it's kind of neat. And then you're learning a new technology, CAN. So that's kind of neat.
It's kind of neat. That Voron tap is reminiscent. It's not the same design, of course, but it's reminiscent of that one they use on the new Enders, or the CR6, I think it was. Where it just to level the printer.
So it go. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And then it's just shoves the head into the.
Because Voron, we're using an inductive probe or type thing previously.
Yeah. This is, when did this branch start? This is relatively new because it's like 4 months. 4 months old was the oldest post. So
I know they had some issues where if you got the cheaper quality one, the probe would burn up. Well, and I don't know if the probe was burning up or if it was just too close to the print head. It kind of sat behind the print head.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and like the inductive probes, and I have one. I missed your stream alert. It's okay, Gary.
It's okay. You're here.
Welcome.
You're here.
Yeah, well, the VOD will be out in approximately 20 minutes. Actually, it's out right now, really. You can just go back and start from the beginning. Yes, inductive, then clicky, and now tap. But the tap has a board problem right now. Oh, dear.
Oh.
Isn't there always a board problem? But, like, my inductive probe, I like it, except it obviously works best when I have the flex plate on it.
Yeah,
One thing, because then it's reading the actual print surface, not underneath the magnet on the ender, or
yeah.
right, or through and then to the bed on.
You don't have to adjust your offset depending on how you're using your printer.
Yeah. Now the heat bothers it immensely. So that was the one. That printer is ABS. So that's
Isn't that why they went to the Pinda probe on Prusa, because they put a thermistor in the probe itself.
Yeah, and then it
to
can
help
do the
compensate.
math.
So it can So it's.
I mean, however,
there's different methods.
You get a good print off of your inductive probe. You know it works, and it can. And then if you know that the probe is working, you can just leave it at the incorrect temperature and adjust it yourself manually with baby stepping, and the next time it probes correctly. But you have to print the same material, right? Because like when I was printing ABS, we're up at 95 or 100.
Yep.
PLA was 60, right? That's completely different, and the probe acts differently.
Yep, so, absolutely.
But I'd be interested, like I've been interested in putting the Voron hot end. I forget what the hot end name is.
The stealth burner?
Is that their new one?
That's one of their new ones. They have. I'm sure they're working on more, but
throwing like that
the main one is the stealth burner that just came out. Your Core XY, you're thinking? I was thinking of doing that at work.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Like if we did it at work first, that makes even more sense because then we could figure it out. But like, I think that would be a good addition to like that, and then the tap would make sense. Although I've had a BL Touch on there since almost we opened it up, right? Because when that one came with not the 1.3 but a 1.2 BL Touch, and then when it burnt out, I put the 1.3 on it,
or the 3.0.
Don't they just go 1, 2?
I don't remember.
Whatever the newest one was, that's what
I think they went. They 3 is the newest 3.1.
Oh yeah, 3.1. That's what it is. Yeah, 3.1. That's what's on there.
Ray says
3. Thanks, Ray.
We knew it was something like that.
I hit my head. I still can't remember things correctly. Give me a break. Just kidding. It's good. So yeah, but I think that would be a good addition to that Core XY.
Yeah, and Ray has a good point. Like there, different probes for different beds there's different uses, and that makes sense, right?
Yep.
And different beds for different, like some people like the texture, some people like the smooth when they pop it off the printer. So everyone's preferences are slightly different. And depending on what you're doing. So
printing multi-part things that have to go together can be trickier on the bumpy bed, depending on how the parts fit together.
That's true.
So smoother parts might be your goal eventually.
That's why I have the PI coated.
Yeah.
And then the texture, so I just flip it over, and so if depending on what I'm printing, I get the.
I have one of those, and I have one similar. I need to get a new PI sheet for it, but it's in the Gerge. The probes, like a BL Touch-esque probe, will do 90% correct, 80% correct. But like if you start printing even more exotic materials, higher temperature, like that require enclosure at higher temperature, the BL Touch will fail as well, and that's why they make like HT probes, like high temp BL Touch. Yeah, they're the same idea. Like guys, I don't know if you remember, like I think it was 2 years ago, everybody was obsessed with using Allen keys in a micro switch. That's the probe, right? And all of that stuff works. It's just how much. Again, like, what's your surface? Where's the probe going? Is it easy to mount? When you print the parts for well, they tell you not to use a textured because parts must fit together. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's
that's
ERCF,
that's
by the way, not ERCF, but I thought it was more funny. ERCF. ERCF. Yeah. No, and it's very true. Like, I'm running into that problem right now. I'm printing a thing for my wife, and like, you're supposed to push these things into like a little eye socket that match it, and you can't get them in if they're textured. So then I have to take a knife and 20 minutes of my life and file and sand and push and squeeze and
or get a PEI sheet.
Yeah, well, maybe, but I'm gonna push a button here and do a thing.
All right,
there.
the multi-material feeder that when you're trying to put that together for the Voron, or I guess you can technically use it on any printer. It doesn't fit together really nice on the textured, is what Ray was saying. So
yeah. And yeah, anytime, I almost would say anytime you're using like fit together stuff,
mechanically snap together parts.
If the part that fits together is touching the build plate, it's and that's why I still have a mirror, right?
And then you also have to watch out for elephant foot too, right? So you have to make sure that you've got a really good tweaked, first layer, so that it will snap together and you don't have to kind of force it.
It's one of those things. There's many different options. It's interesting how intertwined, like, your nozzle down to your bed down to your probe really are. all of those pieces have to work perfectly together,
right? And if you haven't like adjusted your printer in a while and something's a little loose, all those little pieces add up, and your success goes down as they add up. If the deviation is too high. So making sure your wheels aren't spinning freely, and making sure your belts are tight enough, and making sure your gantry isn't flopping all over the place. Your eccentric nuts are good. All those little things, especially when some of us have been printing thousands of hours over many years, you got to do that maintenance. It's important.
Yep. It's Dominic brought up a capacitive probe, and he likes it. He says, I like it because it works on glass and metal surfaces, and he's right. It works on both because it's a cap probe. So there's two different probes. Well, like more than two, but like there's an inductive and a cap probe when you're looking at that, and I don't disagree. I like the cap, but I will say like the BL Touch is guaranteed on any surface, so it's like,
and I liked the BL Touch over, because I did try one of the capacitive probes. They're quite the wiring for them is more cumbersome, and they are larger. So I like the compactness, and so that smaller size of this other probe is, not too bad. So I don't know. It's small and light is always good.
And I mean, when it comes down to it, and I'm gonna say it like for everybody, there's no wrong answer. Like in 3D printing, generally speaking, if you put the work in, it'll work. Right? As an ex-mechanic, I know how important maintenance is, and to get quality print, it is something you should do on a regular basis. I
100% agree with that, because it's something like, I think I've said this before. The printer behind me here, the guy was having problems with it. I said, "What's wrong?" Well, he says the gantry's loose. The extruder is
Yeah.
loose.
Yeah.
I'm like, just tighten your eccentric nut and that'll fix that. But he was selling it and whatnot. And he's like, no, I tightened all the screws.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
not
just
the
done with
problem.
this.
I'm like, no, that's honestly, you have to just take your wrench and adjust the eccentric nut and it'll be fixed. No. So I got it for a song. $170.
Yeah. Well, and I saw a similar actual the other day on our local marketplace. Somebody was selling any cubic i3 Mega, like the up. He's like, I'm selling. There's something wrong with it, but I can't figure it out. I don't want to take the time. I'm just gonna sell it. And you could see the problem with it, like in the picture, and it's like, come on. You can do it. But again, that comes with experience.
It does. It totally comes with experience and whatnot. But I spent, probably half an hour chatting with the guy on the phone, telling him how to fix it, and he wouldn't. So I said, okay, well, I'll buy it here. How about this much? He's like, fine. And so,
yeah.
so it was in Calgary, so I had my stepdad go over and run over and pay him cash and pick it up. And my stepdad was all worried. What if it doesn't work? Don't worry. I'll make it work. For that price, I'll make it work.
Yeah. 3D. And I mean, we go back to accessibility. Now, Stig makes a point about people need to understand 3D printing isn't easy. And like, it's very true. Like 3D printing now is accessible.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not easy, or there is still a barrier too, where depending on what printer you start with too, right? The knowledge system's not there, and that's where the word I hate most comes in, is community, right?
The troubleshooting skills you need is important. Like you need some. If you are not handy, and you are not good with troubleshooting a problem, maybe 3D printing is not for you. And because sooner or later you're going to have to fiddle and tinker and tweak and whatnot. I mean, that's even before even branching out into modding printers. That's just setting up your original printer. And you need to have a certain amount of skill there, and you can learn.
Yeah, and onus needs to be on companies that release these printers to help give adequate instructions on at least the basic function and troubleshooting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, like that, and that's why I say I don't like the word community. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to ask Creality for help if you bought a printer from them. But 90% of the time, and Big Tree Tech's the same way. If you buy a board, they just go, go find their forum on Facebook. Somebody else will know.
But that's why the local shops are there, right, to solve your problems. Like, that's what Ray does. That's what Derek does. Someone buys a printer and they don't have the skill. And I mean, you buy a bike. A bike is a really simple thing to maintain and whatnot. But for some people, they don't get it. They don't get how the gears work. They don't get how, right? It's the same thing. And so then they take it to the bike shop. So your local shop is also important for, a certain percentage of users, right, that aren't willing to do the maintenance themselves.
Dominic says it's like buying a guitar. You're not wrong. I had a rule when I was working in a guitar shop. I would never work on my own guitar. I would trade off with another guy, and I would work on his and he would work on mine, because we were both too afraid to break our own stuff, but it was fine if it was somebody else's. But like, it's I feel so like in the lower budget printers, let's say sub $800, sure. I guess you're gonna buy what you get, but when you're buying a little bit higher end stuff, it should be a little bit better supported.
Well, I mean,
looks like we're dropping frames, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, you could stop the video feed to me.
It's not that. It's YouTube's feed today has just been terrible.
Hmm.
They keep going up and down, up and down. But that's not 3D printing. That's YouTube related. So,
Yeah.
well, yeah. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, I think, like, there's people out there that exist to help. Ray's out there, we're out there, and it's fine. Like, there's some folk have filled the gap, but I just hate like the community at large because they're never kind. Everybody gets treated like granted, some of it is like you should search a forum before old post, but like if somebody's asking a question, just answer nicely and
Hmm.
that stuff. But before we go, I'm gonna push another button. If you've been here, thank you so much. If you want to come find us again, we're on Patreon, and that's patreon.com/3dmakeit. YouTube, you're obviously here right now, but remember to share, subscribe, like, and send us out into the communities, Reddits, Facebook,
Yeah.
share the links. But yeah, we definitely appreciate everybody that's here this morning, and thank you for coming. Or
Yeah,
afternoon,
thanks,
whatever
everyone.
time it is for you, evening. We don't know.
But yeah, thanks everyone for coming and hanging out with us today. And hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day, however much of it you have left. And yeah, we will see you next time.
Hasta luego. It's only tomorrow, but whatever. I'll see you later.
Bye.